Good morning. Welcome to the premium video forecast discussion for Friday, June 9th, 2023. We have a lot to talk about this morning, so let's dive right into it. And I do apologize if you hear a bird outside. That's actually, the birds are coming back out after all of this smoke hanging around. It looks like they're just as excited as I am to see the sunshine and blue skies. Now, the current observations from the EPA has our air quality steadily improving. We have fallen into the range where you're sensitive group. So again, if you have asthma, anything of that nature, use some caution, take some precautions. But the air quality is steadily improving. Anytime you've fallen below 100 in this level here, that's usually some good news. And in some areas, it is in a good level. That's between 0 and 50. So that's certainly some great news. So why are we seeing an improvement? Well, the winds are starting to shift. We could start at 250 millibars, where instead of the winds coming in straight from the northwest at 250 millibars, they're coming in from the southwest. So we're starting to cut off that transport of smoke from Quebec and parts of Ontario and the Canadian Maritimes. And now we're transporting more of an air mass coming in from the Ohio River Valley and the Tennessee River Valley. So far less smoke. So the atmosphere is able to clear out and do what it normally does, which is get rid of all of this smoke. So as a result, we're starting to see that improvement. And you can see also the winds at the mid levels at 850 millibars. They're coming in more from the west, northwest, which again is improving the potential for our air quality to improve, right? So it's cutting off that smoke transport. And we can see that very clearly in our visible satellite picture right here, where we don't have that brown haze of garbage moving right through us. So there's still a bit of a haze out there. You know, it's not completely cleared out, but far better than what we saw the past 2 days. So we'll continue to see this improvement and continue to see this setup. Now, in the meantime, we do have a trough that's going to be moving through, and that's going to lead to some showers and thunderstorms later on in the late afternoon and evening hours. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but while all that was going on with the smoke and our amplified weather pattern, we also have officially moved into an El Nino state. Now, what that means is that the tropics remain quiet here right now. We have literally no activity going on out in the Atlantic, which is great news. I mean, it is early June, so you normally expect that. The GFS continues to advertise some sort of development that's trying to take place with this trough and old cold front boundary out here. I'm not buying it just yet. I mean, typically the GFS has this error, primarily driven by convective feedback error, in producing these tropical lows that spin up and become monster storms moving into the Gulf of Mexico or up the East Coast. It creates more hype and excitement by some individuals. But in reality, there is no observational support for that solution to take place. Saying that, climatologically speaking, if you're going to see development during this time of year, it's going to be in this area right here. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it, but really nothing at all is really brewing. I mean, no sign of pressure drops, no sign of convection, nothing. So I wouldn't worry about it just yet. But we do have our official El Nino. Yes, we have officially gone into El Nino mode. And we've been looking at the observations, so let's just walk through it. Again, 3.4 is where we normally monitor our El Nino strength. It's already up to plus 0.976, so we're already into a weak El Nino pushing into a moderate El Nino strength. Of course, Nino 1 plus 2, we are very, very warm, 2.5, almost 2.6. Nino 3, which is out here, that's at 1 plus 2. And of course, we've already seen 3.4 and Nino 4. So all zones are in the El Nino state. And the warmest anomalies right now are towards the East Basin. So right now you could essentially say initially we have an East-based El Nino. Whether or not that remains the case, a lot of data is pointing towards like a basin-wide El Nino. And remember, Nino 1 plus 2, that region right here, it can be rather volatile and spike and crash pretty easily. So typically I don't like to base my forecasting on the orientation of El Nino on 1+2, but rather lean more on Nino 3, as the data there is a little bit more sustained and doesn't feature a lot of spikes and drops and whatnot. So, but certainly the El Nino is in place. We have lost our negative PDO, as we know, a couple weeks ago, and we're more like in a neutral state right now. And of course, the Atlantic is just boiling well above normal for this time of year. Now, look, probably boiling is a bit hyperbole, but you kind of get the idea here. The Atlantic is very, very warm. You can see that in the northern Atlantic. I mean, look at that. That's pretty impressive. Mid-Atlantic, Atlantic MDR. So, yeah, I mean, I think we could say Caribbean. How about the Eastern Tropical Atlantic? So you kind of get the point here. It is pretty warm. And the coolest location, really, is the Gulf of Mexico, which already is typically rather warm. So, you can see there's a lot of warm Atlantic out there. That's why some people are concerned about this season being a little bit more active. It's going to be an interesting battle between the warm Atlantic waters and the strong shear that is developed from a strong El Nino. Let's go with a moderate El Nino, okay? Even in that scenario here, you got some pretty strong vertical wind shear. And so those two are going to counteract. I think we're going to see a lot of situations where we get these tropical lows that develop pretty easily, and you can get 4 or 5 of them all popping up, but they don't reach optimal strength because they're getting sheared apart. So it's going to be a very interesting season, a lot to learn. Meanwhile, the response from the atmosphere is very impressive. I've been talking about this with the premium members for a long time. Keep an eye on the SOI, because that will tell you where the atmosphere is going. Right now, we're going into a weak positive state in the daily contributions. The monthly and seasonal values are clearly negative. So in terms of the overall atmospheric response, it's clearly supporting El Nino status with about a weak to moderate type of influence on the atmosphere. But why are we going positive? Well, let's look at the convection here. We're seeing a lot of convection taking shape more towards the Western Pacific, a little die down around the date line here. Not much at all over the Eastern Pacific, which is pretty interesting. Normally during El Nino, you'll see a lot more activity out here, but you're not really seeing that all that much. So a lot of the focus on your convection's out here. But right now, the bulk of that convection is basically towards China. So what does this mean? Well, I think what we're seeing is an influence of our MJO moving from phase 1 into a very weak phase 3 and 4. So first of all, the MJO is incredibly weak. So the dominant forcing mechanism is El Nino right now. But we can learn a lot from the MJO phases in telling us where the pattern's kind of going and what the little themes are and little trough placements. We can figure this stuff out by watching the MJO. And what this tells me here is that we're heading towards a relaxation of our 500 millibar pattern. In other words, that upper level low that has been sending smoke and showers and just a mess of cool conditions, very cool for this time of year over the northern Atlantic, well, that's going to become less likely. And we're going to see more of a zonal pattern. Still a trough hanging around the East Coast here. I'm not saying a huge ridge, but instead of being 5, 6, 7 degrees below normal, will be a lot more towards near normal, which is basically 70s and 80s and a few 90s sprinkled about here and there, which is typical for our summer. So that is what's evolving here with our pattern. Now, with the shift of our upper level winds, the HRR now is suggesting far less smoke invading our region. Again, this feature here is more likely to get dropped down towards western Pennsylvania and then basically get wrung out by the Appalachian Mountains. So by the time it gets here, it's not as pure and not as strong of an influence of smoky conditions. So you can see the improvement taking shape here as our upper level lows start to shift and reposition. And that shift and reposition, as you can see here, clearly on the operational European and on the GFS guidance here, that upper level low is starting to lift away. Again, the pattern is becoming a little bit more relaxed. Notice the upper level low around the Aleutian Islands is starting to weaken And so our pattern overall is becoming a little bit more zonal. Now we have one upper level low that does take shape around the central Great Lakes between Saturday and Tuesday. And what that's going to do is going to improve and enhance our southwesterly flow. It's going to be warmer temperatures and also increased potential of showers and thunderstorms by midweek. But you can see the pattern overall becoming a little bit more zonal. We still have some of these upper level lows hanging around. We're not going to lose that completely because that's kind of an El Nino type of thing here that we typically see. But you can see on the ensemble guidance here as we go on through the rest of June, it's not a huge trough and a huge trough here. It's more of a little trough here, a little trough there. We got a trough around California, a little weak trough weakness on the East Coast. And so it's a little bit more zonal. So you get more of an influence from Pacific air masses, more moderation. And as it's moving over the plains, you get some influence from our heat ridges building in Texas. And by the time it gets to our neck of the woods, pretty much near normal with a passing cold front here and there. I don't really see much in the way of any type of widespread heavy rainfall events. We do have one, though. One minor one. It would be heavy compared to what we've been dealing with, which is almost next to nothing. Over the next 90 hours, our upper level low that has been creating cool conditions and smoky conditions weakens and falls apart over the Canadian Maritimes. Meanwhile, a new upper level low starts to take shape in the Great Lakes, and that sends strong lifting towards our neck of the woods. Now on Sunday, we have a nice, what we call ridge axis that supports sinking air. So although we're seeing strong warm air transport, which is basically a warm front at the mid-levels of the atmosphere, we're not going to see much of any precipitation. I can't rule out an isolated thunderstorm completely, but with the ridge axis, as you can see right here, at 500 millibars, 700 millibars, and a little bit east at 850 millibars, that leads to a lot of sinking air, and so sinking air pretty much keeps us dry. But by the time we get to Monday afternoon and through Tuesday morning, you can see the strong lifting here associated with our slow-moving cold front. And we're going to be increasing our precipitable water values to around 2 inches. So that's going to certainly support the potential for showers and thunderstorms. And some of those thunderstorms could produce some very heavy downpours. I'm not too convinced on severe thunderstorms, but let's keep an eye out for the potential for wind gusts exceeding 45 miles per hour on Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then a few lingering showers on Tuesday afternoon as the cold air transport takes hold. But as you can see, we're definitely going to be warming up rather nicely as we move into Sunday and Monday. And then our cold front moves through on Tuesday, and then we end up in this pattern once again with a weaker upper level low positioned further north into northern Canada, but still these little pesky short waves moving through, producing isolated to widely scattered showers each day. But overall, a warmer environment starts to take hold as our heat wave builds in the plains and starts to push east. And we're kind of on the edge where we kind of go back towards near normal temperatures to basically, again, around 80 in the 80s for the most part. Taking a look at the HRR guidance, there's our thunderstorms. Again, I'm not looking at severe thunderstorms, but I still am concerned about some lightning strikes. It is still pretty dry out here, so that is a concern with some of these showers and thunderstorms this evening swinging on through. If you're going to the Phillies or Yankees game, you might want to watch out for that. Have an umbrella handy as you might need it, or at least some extra money for the concessions, as your kids most likely will be asking for a lot of soda and hot dogs while they're waiting out a rain delay. The thunderstorms, though, I think will feature more bark than bite. You'll see on the radar, wow, these thunderstorms look strong, but then when they move through, the rainfall may not be as intense, and that's because we still have a lot of dry air hanging around the region. So, for today, again, watch out for some isolated to widely scattered showers and thunderstorms in the evening. Temperatures will rebound into the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s in the Delaware River Valley, upper 60s to lower 70s along the coast. For tonight into tomorrow, again, watch out for a few isolated showers and thunderstorms. Air quality will continue to improve as winds start to veer more towards the west and eventually the southwest by the time we get to tomorrow evening. Temperatures will range from the mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, upper 70s to lower 80s in the Delaware River Valley, and upper 70s to lower 80s along the coast, but lower to mid 70s on Long Island. Now on Sunday, that upper level ridge axis will keep us pretty quiet for the most part. I'm keeping that isolated thunderstorm threat in the wording here just because we have that warm air transport, but the ridge axis should really support a lot of scattered cloud cover, and that's about it. Look for low temperatures on Sunday to range from the lower to mid 50s, and high temperatures, this is where it gets a bit warmer because we have warmer 850 millibar temperatures. So we end up with lower to mid 80s over the northern interior, mid to upper 80s, maybe touching 90 degrees in the Delaware River Valley, especially if you're south of Philadelphia. And along the coast, you're talking about temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 70s on Long Island, upper 70s to lower 80s along the rest of the coast. And as we move into Monday, you'll have increasing clouds throughout the day with that cold front approaching. Your rainfall will generally stay off to the west through the early afternoon. Later in the afternoon, that's where things get a little bit more complicated, with more scattered showers and thunderstorms developing. Look for low temperatures to range from the lower to mid 60s. High temperatures will range from the upper 70s to lower 80s over the northern interior, lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley, upper 70s to lower 80s on the immediate coast, and lower to mid 70s on Long Island. Again, we're going to have more of a south to southeasterly wind. Winds are going to be around 10 to 20 miles per hour. So we're going to get a little bit more of an influence from the Atlantic. So if you're on Long Island, you're going to be stuck in the 70s, whereas if you're on the Jersey Shore, you're more likely to be a little bit closer to 80. After this period, Monday night into Tuesday morning, our cold front will be moving through with showers and thunderstorms. There is a potential we could see a wave of low pressure that could enhance some of this rainfall while it's moving through around 2, 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And then as we move on through Tuesday afternoon, don't be surprised to get some lingering showers and variable cloud cover as the cold front slowly is pushing through. That's going to lead to temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 60s over the northern interior, mid to upper 60s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s along the coast, and upper 70s to lower 80s in the Delaware River Valley. There is potential here for some heavier downpours that could lead to some localized flash flooding. It's so dry out here that you get this heavy rainfall coming in for a short period of time. It could wash off some of the topsoil and also lead to some urban flooding because you have debris hanging around in your drain. So you might want to clean that out this weekend just to be on the safe side. On Wednesday, we have a series of troughs moving through. Unsettled conditions, variable cloud cover, isolated shower here and there. Temperatures will range from the upper 50s to lower 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the upper 60s to lower 70s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s along the coast, and mid 70s to lower 80s in the Delaware River Valley. On Thursday, again, a pesky trough hangs around with variable cloud cover. Look for low temperatures to range from the mid to upper 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast, and upper 70s to lower 80s in the Delaware River Valley. And then on Friday, we'll watch an area of low pressure. This doesn't have as much support in the ensemble guidance, but it's hanging around enough that there's going to be potential for a few isolated widely scattered showers. I don't see this as a washout, but certainly a bit of a pest, with low temperatures in the mid to upper 50s over the northern interior, upper 50s to lower 60s along the coast, and high temperatures range from the lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, upper 70s to lower 80s along the coast. That is your forecast discussion for today. Have a wonderful day, and as always, stay safe out there.